Hey guys, Mr. Hamid again real quick, this time for math. We're going to go through this very fast. There's a lot of things going on the board. Just follow my lead and hopefully this will give you a better understanding in regards to the basics of grade 7 fractions, decimals, and percentages. Real quick, reminder, fractions are just telling us the parts of a whole, okay? This rectangle, I have it broken up into 4 parts. It's still my whole. 2 of those parts are shaded. That is 2 parts of the 4-part whole. Now the cool thing about fractions is they are just division, okay? Yeah, we write them on top of each other, but that kind of reminds us of our symbol. If you look up here, those dots actually represent the unknown numbers that we put on later, such as the 2 and the 4, right? How do we get the decimal? Well, we just simply divide, right? 2 divided by 4 is half, 0.5, right? Or 0.5. Remember, into a fraction, there's the top number, the bottom number, we have our numerator and our denominator. The numerator, the top number, is how many parts of the whole that we're looking at, and the denominator is the total parts that whole is broken up into, right? For example, this, we have 7 parts of a 10-part whole, okay? How many fingers do I have? I have 10. How many of them are down? 7. So it's 7 out of 10 fingers are down, all right? Now, we go from decimals to understanding place values with decimals, all right? We know our place values, hundreds, tens, ones, but what happens after that decimal? Well, we have our 10th, our 100th, and our 1000th. Just as you multiply this one by 10 or by 100 to get our tens, hundreds, thousands, and so on, well, to go this way, you would divide, right? So it's our 1 divided by 10 gives us 1/10. Our 1 divided by 100 gives us our 100th, and so on and so forth. Right? Well, looking at this, what could we do? We could actually turn those decimals into percentages, right? The best way I like to think of percentages is remember that it's out of 100, right? Think of your test marks, right? Everything, trying to get that 100%, think of it that way, right? If you have 5%, well, that means you got 5 out of 100, and then if you just divide that, that equals 0.05, or 0.500th, okay? Now, how do we go backwards and get a percentage once we have a decimal? Well, because it's at 100, if we have a decimal, if we multiply it by 100%, we'll get that 75%, right? Also, just because fractions might have different denominators and numerators doesn't mean they don't equal the same thing. 1 over 2, which is 1/2, is the same as 2 over 4, which is the same as 50 over 100, which is the same as 100 over 200, which is the same as 500 over 1,000, right? Those are equivalent fractions, right? 1/4, which is 1 over 4, is the same thing as 2 over 8, right? Later on, you'll learn about lowest common factors and lowest common denominators to kind of give you a understanding of why we need to know equivalent fractions. Now, you might be thinking, Mr. Hamid, how do we organize all this? Well, that's where our number line comes in and we have benchmarks to guide us, okay? For example, my number line right here is broken up into 10 parts. So it's 10 parts of a whole. If you give me a decimal or a fraction, I could use these benchmarks I already have out here and place my fraction into those spots. Now, do they have to be out of 10? No, you could have a number line that's divided into 2, which then you have a benchmark of 1/2. You can have divided into 4, which you have a benchmark of quarters. Last thing to recap is improper and mixed fractions. An improper fraction is when the top number, remember is your numerator, is bigger than your bottom number, which is your denominator. The best way to understand that is that means there's more of a whole than there is parts of a whole, right? And a good way to answer this question and to figure out what it is, well, we divide, right? How many times can 2 go into 5? Well, we know 2 whole times for sure, which gives us a number of 4. And that leaves us the remainder of 1. Well, we have our 2 whole, and then the remainder of 1 over our original denominator of 2, which gives us now 2 and 1/2. I like to think of pizza when it comes to this. How many pizzas did I eat? Well, if each pizza had 2 slices, and I had 5 slices in total, well, I had 2 slices is 1, another 2 slices, that's 2 pizzas with a total of 4 slices that I ate. And if I had 1 more slice, that becomes 2.5 pizzas that I consumed. Well, what happens if we have a mixed fraction and we want to try to find the improper? This one's cool. All you have to do is multiply the denominator by the whole and then add your numerator. All right? And 1 2/3, it turns into 5 and 5 over 3. All right? And remember, it's just simple. Multiply your denominator to the whole. So 3 times 1 plus 2 gives us a total of 5. That's it for this video. Stay tuned for more to come as we continue to learn. Stay safe, stay out of trouble, and happy learning.